Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our live recorded session of Arc 6, chapters 50 to 52. We're Studio Reverie, and we're gonna get started. Just as a reminder, we will be skipping this Saturday because 4th of July is Friday, and a lot of our voice actors want a day off to, recuperate from July 4th activities. Understandable. So we'll be back again next Wednesday with the live recordings. However, we fed the podcasters this week. If you are a member of Studio Reverie, you have Arc 9 Phase 2 accessible in podcast format to you today. Otherwise, the rest of us are waiting until Friday. Thank you all so much for your patience with our casting process. We are still sorting through so many auditions. I think we have, 200 left or so?
200 left sorting before we even get to callbacks.
Yep, 200 left sorted until we get to callbacks. You can go take a look at your CCC to see if you've been sorted or if we have discarded your audition. Thank you everyone for your time. This has been a really tough competition. Everyone's been so amazing and so talented. But of course, we can only cast 41 of you for roles, but we do have a lot of extras. So we will keep you posted. We'll let you know when we start up our callbacks. If you don't receive an opportunity for callbacks, you probably have not made it. I'll try to make a little notification for those of you who didn't. So thank you for participating. Without further ado, let's bring on our cast. You're live. Hell. And I didn't even turn on your audio. Do it again. We're live.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
I do this every fucking time. Oh my god.
It's fine.
Well, everybody, as always, introduce yourselves top to bottom. Al, start us off.
Hello, everyone. I am Al. I just got trapped in the basement for a good, 5 minutes, but I'm out.
Yay.
I'm out.
Hello, I'm Connor, and I have decided to finally unlock that door and just let him roam free as much as he needs. That might be foreshadowing for today, folks. I'm also one of the hosts of E0 Podcast, which went live today. Woo!
Yay!
So go watch it after this is done.
If you remember.
If you remember. Which is easy to become. It's only $1.
Yes. Greeny here, one of the editors of Studio Reverie, and currently still fighting traffic. But other than that, yeah, I'm pretty here, excited.
Yay.
Hello, I am Carmen, another one of the editors of Studio Reverie, as well as your Melee, still fighting for her life against a crazy Subaru.
I'm Kyle, so I'm your Amelia, and covering for Anastasia and Shala, and I run the joint, and I'm one of the editor-manager peoples. Thank you, Unknown Ranger, for your support.
Yay! Hello, I am Tealdi. I will be narrating chapter 52? Question mark? Yes. The last one today, chapter 52.
Yes.
I'll be narrating. I'll be standing in as Beatrice. And that's the only chapter you'll hear from me today, so hang around.
Hello everyone! Wolf here. I'm your voice for Subaru. I'm also one of the co-hosts for the ReZero podcast, so if you do have that membership, please check out that episode early. I think it's a pretty good one, personally, if I do say so myself.
I've never seen Wolf so excited as the beginning, or right before we recorded that.
Of course.
Huzzah,
But
huzzah.
yeah, thank you everyone for
Huzzah.
coming back and tuning in. Did you remind them about Saturday already, Kyle's?
Yes, I did.
Perfect.
Let you guys have 4th of July.
The last weekend, some people will have 10 fingers.
What? What?
It happens
so real.
every 4th of July somewhere in the U.S.
Yeah, the average number of fingers goes slightly below 10 on the 5th of July every year, by the 5th of July.
What the fuck?
Well, I hope you
Because-
all
Where
have
do they
your
go?
fingies.
It turns out alcohol and explosives, especially by untrained
Okay,
users, they
no,
don't
yeah,
really
that makes
mix very
sense.
well.
Who'd have thought?
Weird.
It's a mystery science may never solve.
This is why I run the fireworks for my family.
And Connor will be losing his fingers this weekend. Very good.
What?
Haven't lost one yet.
Don't
Yes.
say yet. Do not say
There's still
yet.
time to change.
This might be your weekend.
Next
No, wait a
Wednesday.
minute, he
Sorry,
has-
guys. Stream is canceled. Connor lost a finger.
Oops.
Please, I don't need a finger to record.
Nor
As
do
long as
need
you
a
have
head.
one, at least.
As long as I
just
never leave the
need one.
call, then I'm fine.
That's a crazy amount of
We can take
dedication.
the call for you. It's okay. You can operate a mouse without your finger.
True.
I'll get a
Yeah, that
off-brand
is.
Neuralink
Yeah.
instead.
Oh no.
No.
Sketchy surgery for your skull.
Brother. Brother, what are you talking about? Just move it with the rest of your fingers. Or are you gonna lose all 10 of your fingers?
I type
a
with
little nubby
3
nubs.
fingers total because of bad training. So if I lose those 3, I will need something else to type with.
It's gonna be tough.
Yeah, fair.
You heard it here first.
Your other
folks.
hand. You heard it here first. We only need 3 fingers to type in. If you lose them, you lose your ability to type forever.
I would probably lose my job, considering
Yeah.
I'm a software developer.
Let's
Yeah,
not
that makes
manifest
sense.
this further, and let's
No.
get into pain and suffering.
Yay! My favorite!
Yay!
Yay! Connor, one last question at the end. The big blob at the end there, you see that? Who is that?
So this is one that it's like odd on what to do about it. Like
Should we
at the end
all?
of 50, right?
I think it'd be kind of cool if it starts with Wolf for the ones that are in a line, and then we all just collectively say it for a moment or two.
That'd be fun.
If we were in the same room, I would agree.
Nah, it should
Yeah,
be
this-
layered.
I feel like if anything, it's either just gonna be just me or me and Carmen, and that's it.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
gonna this isn't even common. This is just Amnesia Baru saying that over and over, or reading it over and over.
Okay, I am happy to do all of that then.
Aw.
You want to do all?
I thought it would be fun to have us do the bold part.
I
Would
think
be-
it would just desync it too much
Yeah, too
between
much.
everyone's
Mhm.
slightly
Yeah.
different
Mhm.
pings.
Yeah.
Boo.
Yeah, we should have all met
Good
up.
luck,
It's a
Chase.
shame.
That's a problem for
Don't worry,
post.
Kyles. Yeah, don't
Yeah,
worry,
that's a
Kyles.
problem for future.
That's why I
Oh,
want to do
okay,
it now,
so-
because it's gonna be a fucking nightmare anyway. So I'm just gonna loop it.
Yeah.
Wolf, you're gonna have to do that 59 times, okay?
I bet I can count.
This actually isn't even internal monologue. This is just him reading it on the walls. So
Mm.
like it probably should be the narrator.
Oh, okay.
Oh. Okay, I'll have to do it 59 times.
There you go.
Uno reverso.
Uno reverse.
From the top,
Damn
then.
it. Curses.
Mhm.
All right.
All right. Strap on in.
Everyone ready?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Arc 6, Chapter 50. To you, the absolutely worthless excuse. At the sound of her cold voice, Subaru literally felt his heart freeze. Looking back at the front of the room, Ram stood still at the entrance, her light pink irises ablaze, quietly boring into Subaru. Though Subaru had only come into contact with her a few times before, he had rarely ever seen her reveal such emotion on her face. In that Ram, there was a fervor that easily betrayed that impression.
What are you getting so flustered for? Rom asked you a question. Answering is Barasu's. No, answering is your duty.
I am just.
Just
Promptly, Subaru's head began revolving as he attempted to explain himself. He needed to move his tongue somehow, curse his sluggish mind for its initial response and meeting the situation with a silver tongue. However, in the first place, in addition to having been thrown into this unexpected turmoil, before this had occurred, Subaru had not... He had yet to even process how Meili's corpse had disappeared. He had not even prepared the words to talk his way out of things. He was not even able to prepare to come to grips with what was happening right in front of his eyes. All that Subaru was able to do was to open and shut his mouth awkwardly as he tried his best to not say anything improper, even though Subaru's manner now supported his suspicious behavior louder than any words could. Ram narrowed her eyes at Subaru's silence. The coldness in her gaze, which he had already thought to be at the level of absolute zero, felt even further. It almost felt as if he had been assailed by a sharp, bone-chilling blizzard. While desperately trying to keep his knees from trembling, Subaru slowly started to understand too little too late.
Have I been set up?
When Meili's body had not been found, the meeting at a dinner table had been a bluff. When they had reported that Meili's body had not been discovered, Subaru had been relieved that he had escaped the chance of being blamed. Desperately searching in vain, they had not uncovered the not-so-well-hidden body of the little girl. His bad luck had prevailed even in these unusual circumstances. Subaru had accepted the convenient truth, putting off any niggling doubts that had concerned him then, and that had resulted in him being caught up in this uncouth act. Hadn't Subaru also seen this repeatedly in various TV shows? In the final scene, the murderer who had so meticulously put together his perfect plan would return to the crime scene and give himself away, as the police and the detectives would be closely watching the crime scene, and because of that, they would give away that they had committed the crime by showing themselves as being the smoking gun. That kind of comedic-ish moment. Somewhere in his mind, Subaru had thought that were he in that position, he would never show such stupidity. Any connoisseur of mysteries would take note of the sheer foolishness of the dumb criminal that would slip up at the very end. He had acted in completely the same way. No, he had been worse, for his shock of being caught up in this act had made him quite a miserable sight to behold.
Fake.
Ram's quiet mutter barreled into him as he was stricken by his own defective actions. With just that single word, Subaru's brittle heart crumbled and sunk in his chest as if he had been shell-shocked by a mortar attack. As soon as he had heard it, his face had turned as white as a sheet, his lips trembling. Ram let out a sigh.
So, you have nothing to say to defend yourself? I guess that is proof that even you yourself were aware of just how botched your acting is. You didn't prepare well enough when disguising yourself as him. There are limits when it comes to not being diligent. Don't you agree?
Without hiding the contempt in her voice, Ram began explaining why she had suspected Subaru. Fakeness, poor acting, and showing insufficient understanding towards Natsuki Subaru had all been pointed out by her. Not only was Subaru lost for words, but his heart felt as if it was going to crack, and the flow of his blood ached with each heartbeat. In fact, Subaru bit his lower lip and blood started to stream out, accompanied by a sharp stinging pain. A fake. A poor imitation of Natsuki Subaru, a fake. That thought settled into the pit of his stomach as if it were thick black sludge. A disgusting sludge covering him from head to toe, a weight that caused his knees to stop trembling. Instead, where the depths of his eyes had burned, a blaze glowed, dancing atop the fuse of his dark emotions. One can call it hostility, malice, malintent, or perhaps an intent to kill.
There is no way such unnatural behavior would go unnoticed. Well, except by those that cannot spare the heat for it. That could be said of Julius, Anastasia-sama, well, Echidna.
You're sure letting it all out. Here I am, listening to you patiently, without even saying a word. A fake? I think you're crossing the line of false accusations here. Who the hell do you think you are?
False accusations, huh?
Subaru tried to voice his objections, painful as it was in response to Ram's unwithering sharp tongue. Of course, the point that she had been making was completely correct, even if he did not agree with having so sternly described her as a worthless excuse. That unfillable void between Subaru and Natsuki Subaru existed. However, she could not have noticed this. If she came to notice it, then it would become impossible for him to worm himself out of the situation. He could not stop here halfway, though.
False accusations upon false accusations. My ears are deaf to them, you know. I can't hear any of them.
Shoulders shrugging and cheeks distorting into a scowl, Subaru spoke while glaring at Ram, as if he were dramatizing truth and lies, which even he himself felt as to be so brazen, to be the truth of the world.
Anyways, what's with going on about me having wanted to wander about in the middle of the night? I just wanted to stretch my legs and think a bit while there was no one around. That's why I deliberately went somewhere where I wouldn't be around your little sister's... Rem's sleeping, nor Patrichet's presence.
Did you really think that nobody had seen anything?
Ram had quietly asked Subaru this as he was rapidly blurring out his excuses. Her words were brief but sharp, designed to puncture deep into his vitals. Holding his breath at hearing her inquiry, Subaru racked his brain, trying to figure out what she had really meant with those words. See, seen, not be seen, couldn't have seen.
Where did Ram get this word from? Seen? What does she mean by this?
Meili's corpse? Or perhaps Meili before she had become a corpse? Or had she seen him working on concealing Meili's corpse? Or maybe...
Nothing. Even if it was your plan that nobody would see anything, the ground dragon was diligently watching your strange behavior. And because of that, Ram was also able to watch you in the same way.
Putting her finger to her lips right in front of him, Ram deliberately made a scene out of showing this particularly uncouth gesture towards Subaru.
What the hell are you saying?
Without understanding the meaning of the behavior behind her gesture, Subaru let out those words in bewilderment. However, he did have quite a recent memory of this particular gesture. It was none other than the gesture Subaru had shown to Betrash before leaving the spirit room. Right now, he could not for the life of him understand what had cropped up again in this place with Ram right now.
You need to study him more. You worthless excuse.
The utter disappointment those two words carried was what drove home that this was a final warning for Subaru. Up until now, though extremely cold and unfeeling, Ram had kept her stance of wanting to talk, even if her intention of exchanging words with Subaru was disappearing by the second. The instant Subaru had seen the look in her eyes, he realized that his excuses were meaningless. Ram would turn a deaf ear to whatever excuses Subaru came up with. Since it had come to this, Subaru had no other choice but to break through the situation using brute strength. In that moment, Subaru began considering how to kill Ram inside his head. To think about how to kill her. There was no longer any point in feeling reluctant about it. He had already killed one person, one or two, it made little difference. A while ago, I had a lot of experience in snatching away the lives of a great number of people. From here on out, there would be no hindrance in the execution of his Book of the Dead plan.
But that Onesan.
Countless choices within Subaru crumbled away noisily. Only the verge of being left with only his dangerous thoughts, the shade of the little girl that had been keeping silent up until now chimed in. Though invisible, the presence of the shade beside him was so strong that he could practically feel her breathing. It hugged Subaru's body from behind, softly whispering into his ear and tempting him, and the contents of that sweet, sweet saccharine temptation were...
Surely she's in poor condition, right? Her center of gravity on the left side, its balance is poor.
Those sweet whispers had brought him the weaknesses of that awe-inspiring yet terrifying girl. Putting things short, she had given him instructions on how to kill her. She was smaller than him, she was weaker than him, she had less experience when it came to killing. With the knowledge I had accumulated by spending so much time with the assassin in black, it should be easy to kill this woman.
Knock her over towards her left-hand side and bash her head against the wall. That'll do the trick.
As he was taking into account the difference in strength between himself and Ram, relevant advice came from myself. By just following that, the girl's skull would crack and flowers of deep crimson would bloom upon the wall. Crimson flowers that would marvelously complement this lovely girl's pink hair. Without any cues and without any obvious openings, Subaru faced his opponent in the blink of an eye and stepped forward. Receiving a round of cheers from the shade, Subaru stepped forwards, devoid of hesitation, towards Ram's body, which was slightly tensed, towards her right-hand side. He would throw her body against the wall, and then...
Since you're at a loss for words, you're now resorting to violence. What a barbaric, tedious conclusion.
In that moment of offense and defense, before Subaru's arm could reach her, Ram had opened her lips and weaved those words. Meeting each other's gazes, Subaru's breath was knocked out of him upon seeing Ram's cold eyes.
Did you really think that the oh-so-frail and feeble Rom would challenge such a barbaric man alone?
Rather than mocking him, Ram's words felt similar to pity. As she spoke, Subaru heard a crackling sound in the air mingling in with her voice. In fact, he was not hearing things. The moisture in the atmosphere was frozen in a flash. The air around him was being forcibly changed from gas to solid.
What?
The crackling sound that he had perceived had been caused by Subaru's own foot stepping against the pile of ice rising at his feet. It had stopped him in his tracks, causing him pain.
Ice!
Ricocheting from the hard, cold impact, Subaru could hardly believe his eyes. But the transformation did not just stop there. Bars of ice were not just materializing where his foot had been. Rather, they rose from all around him, enclosing him, materializing into an ice cage.
You're kidding me. What the magic?
In the blink of an eye, the ice cage finished appearing in reality. Within it was Subaru completely trapped. Seizing the bars of frost with his hands, Subaru attempted to violently shake them in an attempt to break that of prison. However, his efforts only resulted in him being astounded by the strength of the ice. The bars did not yield even an inch. Even if he kicked and punched with all his strength, he did not at all believe it possible for him to be able to break through. And thus, Subaru had been imprisoned within that ice cage.
Everything would have been so much better if Ram would have been wrong about this.
Looking at him with sad amethyst eyes, Amelia came into view from behind Ram. What had happened was hardly surprising. Subaru found himself dumbstruck like a monkey inside a cage. Ram and Amelia had banded together to restrain him. That much was obvious. Unlike Subaru, however, they had the option of cooperating with each other. The conditions for them was different than his, being forced to fight on his lonesome. From the very beginning, the choice of trying to go against a dangerous person alone would not have cropped up for them. Ultimately, Subaru had been dancing in the palms of their hands at every step of the way.
In this scene, you won't be able to aggrandize yourself with frivolousness. Never mind chattering away with your unproven twaddle. I can barely say that you are below third rate as an actor, let alone second rate.
Ram spat this out, crossing her arms and looking at Subaru sitting inside the cage. Looking at her, he noticed that she had not even moved a single step away from the place where she had first made her entry. Even worse, she had not even changed her posture. Between her and Subaru, that was what differed between the two actors. It was...
With such acting, only a seriously oblivious person could be fooled. Then, who the most mentally tough person was amongst everyone, you needn't even consider there.
From the way you're speaking, aren't you praising me? Thanks.
You're welcome.
Next to Ram, who had reacted with a faint hair of bitterness, silver hair flew up as Amelia stepped forward. Judging by what Ram had stated, this ice cage had been fashioned by Amelia. In other words, it can be concluded that this was a kind of magic that she was able to use. Had he not been stuck in the situation, Subaru would have definitely been impressed by her enchanting ice magic, which suited its owner's beautiful, mystical face well. But seeing as he was practically a captive inside the ice cage and witnessing just how strong it was, at a glance he could understand the difference in strength between him and her and just how inferior he was. The difficulty level of executing his Book of the Dead plan and that ranking had now greatly changed, but before that,
Subaru, what were you trying to do at this time? Weren't you supposed to be resting in the room?
That's...
looking worried, Amelia asked Subaru what he had been doing here at this time. A serious look of anxiety dwelled in her eyes, but when it came to the situation, the only possible conclusion for what he could think of was that it was simple honesty that practically almost classified as stupidity. She was mistaken, thinking that there was a logical reason behind everything. Even Subaru had his own say about this. A reason as to how he had ended up like this certainly existed. However, telling them would be like grasping at thin air. Who would believe Subaru's on Earth? Who on Earth would believe Subaru's words?
Amelia-sama, it is pointless to ask him that. I doubt he will answer your question honestly. I'm doubtful in handling it as if it were Barasu.
But Subaru is Subaru. Ram, you must understand that, right?
Just a counterfeit with Amelia's similar appearance. That is how Ram judges it.
If anything, it resembled something closer to one of Subaru's own thoughts about himself. Ram rebuked Amelia's notion. Most likely, it had been Ram who suspected Subaru and also proposed to keep an eye on what he would be getting up to at night. For sure, Amelia must have been standing by as the rear guard brought along in the case of an emergency. In other words, the answer to dealing with the Natsuki Subaru, who was not Subaru, had already been noticed by Ram a while ago, and afterward, everything left was to take the steps to confirm both the fact and the accompanying grievances.
Thanks to Amelia-sama, you were captured without any harm done. I wonder if a bit of pain will make you willing to tell Ram and everyone what we want to hear.
Pain? Like, torture me? Isn't it a well-known thing that that's not only extremely sadistic, but needs sophisticated expertise?
I will do what is necessary. Besides, I do not really like inflicting pain on others, but it is a specialty of mine.
Keeping him in a cage with a space of not even 2 meters square, Ram was not going easy on Subaru. Pale and slender though her fingers may be, her humble claim of inflicting pain is my specialty felt frightfully convincing to Subaru. If he kept going like this without doing anything, if the opportunity to launch a counterattack did not present itself, it would end up becoming a case where no matter how hard she searched for his secrets, he would just be meaninglessly confessing his miserable behavior.
Wait! You can't hurt him! I won't let you do that.
However, Amelia, who had herself imprisoned Subaru in the ice cage, was the one to stop Ram before she could resort to such extreme measures. She turned her back on the cage Subaru was in and faced Ram directly.
Amelia-sama, weren't you supporting Ram?
I endorse your opinion of questioning him because I also felt Subaru was acting strange. But it's because I thought this might happen that I decided to stay here.
It's because I did not want something like this to happen that I asked Beatrice to keep Julius and the rest of the company. And yet, I did not think Amelia-sama would be so disobedient. Too naive.
Without hiding her irritation at the difference in their opinions, Ram pointed at Subaru, who was hiding behind Amelia's back. Regarding them, she uttered the biting words, "Is this okay?"
He is too lacking in the points that the original Barasu should obviously be in possession of. I heard you talk about the Watergate City, Stella. It seemed like there you had met a shape-shifting Sin Archbishop.
Yes. A reason for us coming here was to restore the people who that Sin Archbishop changed into a different form.
Then what are the chances that Sin Archbishop could have become any of us?
Huh?
Even if they are not that specific Sin Archbishop, if they're able to freely change their shape, then we cannot go by outward appearances. Their normal conduct, the feeling when they try to talk, if all of those things are different.
Ram responded with logic while holding back her anger towards Amelia's emotion-driven opposition. Those were nothing but deductions and baseless accusations towards Subaru, but there was no basis to deny them, and no less important than that, Subaru, no, I felt revulsed by the topic at hand. A flashback, white memories. They came not from Natsuki Subaru, but from a small fragment of the memories seen in the Book of the Dead. The memories from when I was still me. Training, that was what they called their actions towards me. Even though dread had been carved into me many times, the most terrifying thing to happen for me was when my body was made to change to countless innumerable frogs. Even though my consciousness existed only in one body, my infinitely fragmented consciousness did as it liked, leaping whenever it wanted, running whenever it wanted. Dreading the thought of not being able to go back to my original self brought the realization that I had forgotten what my original self was in the first place. Having my reason for existence as a being living crashed like that, I was thankful from the bottom of my heart to Mother the moment I was returned to normal, and at the same time the notion that I should ever under any circumstances go against her orders was etched into my soul. Recalling that dread directly, almost as if he had personally lived it, Subaru's field of vision blurred. One's own appearance was something that was directly linked to one's identity and sense of self. Tampering and changing that as one liked on a whim, that could only be called blasphemy to one's existence. The most detestable deed of all.
That's too extreme. This is quite unlike you, Ram. You sound like you're forcing me to contain him.
Can you even say that nothing is up? Before that man behind us.
Amelia and Ram continued their arguing while Subaru alone drowned in anguish, feeling like his stomach was churning. However, Ram's claim was like probatio diabolica. You could prove that something was something, but no one could prove that it was not. This Natsuki Subaru was not the Natsuki Subaru they wanted. To explain that theory of some kind of shape-shifting power was helpful. It made it simple, and at the same time, it was unbearable for the current Subaru from the bottom of his heart. Overwhelmed by the hostile emotions inside him, Subaru wheezed in pain.
I need to make him spit it out, right now, so I can know where Meili and the real Barasu are.
That complaint from Ram, like a surprise attack, overloaded Subaru's consciousness. It was a bolt out of the blue, a truly unexpected comment. Raising his face, Subaru looked at Amelia and Ram at their continuing quarrel. Gazing at her back, he was unable to see Amelia's emotions. However, Ram's face was clearly visible to him. Her eyes, burning with rage, contained no schemes that would snare Subaru into lies right here. At least, what she had just stated was what she had really meant. In other words, this meant that Ram and the others had not uncovered Meili's remains. The only thing that was lying in wait and trying to denounce Subaru right here was his suspicious behavior, since he could not at all, try as he might, play the part of Natsuki Subaru. He understood where the confused Ram's questioning was coming from, but at the same time he did not understand. Had it not been Ram or Amelia who had been the one to move Meili's remains? If it had been neither Ram nor the others nor Subaru, then there was another agenda at work.
Real or fake? You can't just decide like that. I mean, the Subaru that is here right now is...
I have amnesia!
Holding on to the bars of the ice cage, Subaru's scream cut into the duo's quarrel. Hearing that screaming voice, Ram appeared taken aback and confused. That one unexpected angle of attack left Ram's mind blank. Had it been a trick employed to poke gaps between her logic and disturb her thoughts, then it had been a success, but there had been no such intent. This had been Subaru's scream of truth. As for why he had cried this out right at this moment, even Subaru himself had no clue. In this loop, Subaru had hidden the fact that he had lost his memories and had tried to imitate how the old Natsuki Subaru had seemed. Thanks to that, his life had not been snatched away from this loop. And though that had not come to pass, hadn't there been some other alarming situations that perhaps even rivaled that, which had toyed with Natsuki Subaru and chased him about one after the other? But in truth, concealing his amnesia had complicated everything else in this loop. So what would happen now after his grand reveal?
After all this time, you are still playing around like that.
In reality, the moment her stagnating thoughts had resumed their activities, Ram's expression became dyed in anger. The girl probably thought that Subaru's desperate cry now was a desperate lie, that it was nothing more than sheer nonsense. But even if that was how it was for Ram...
Ram, listen to what Subaru is saying. There was a reason after all.
Are you serious, Amelia-sama? That was completely unbelievable.
With arms stretched, Amelia stood in front of Ram, rallying with Subaru's words. Had she believed he had only jumped up to take advantage with this absurd excuse, Subaru may as well give up on continuing to speak. However, standing in opposition to Subaru, who wished to reject it completely, Amelia still faced her with resolve.
It's worth believing in him. Didn't we all up until now?
This-
Ram's cheeks slightly stiffened in Amelia's appeal. For a second, a trace of doubt flitted through Ram's light pink irises, various thoughts seeming to spin through Ram's intelligent head. She started to open her stiffly closed lips and...
Ram, let's listen to what Subaru says and...
What about Rem?
In an instant, the petite form of Ram, her eyes closed and moist, spun around and leapt at Amelia. Deciding in that moment to fall back, Amelia had prepared to herself to hold down Ram, but the approaching Ram's movements proved to be faster, and Amelia's left hand was caught by Ram's right.
Get in my way now!
As she spoke, demonstrating her excellent footwork and defensive movements, and minimally moving her wrist and shoulder, Ram flung Amelia's body aside in a manner that had demonstrated maximum effectiveness. As Amelia was launched away, her figure slowly somersaulted to the side, though her surprise at her world's sudden revolutions, she quickly grasped her situation and attempted to swing her long legs onto the floor below. In the spot where Amelia landed lay one of Ram's shoes having been taken off. Tripping over it, Amelia lost her balance and landed on all fours. In that melee, Amelia had been overwhelmed by Ram's technique, and Ram slipped into the gap created, thrusting her wand between the bars of the cage towards the tip of Subaru's frightened nose.
I dare you to say that again!
It's not like that.
With that face and that voice, say that you forgot Rem one more time!
Gritting her teeth, Ram was collecting something on the tip of her trembling wand, and he knew what it was. It was invisible to the eye, a power which could probably be called mana was accumulating in front of his eyes, but even then, Subaru could not follow with any words. He could not think of words to present Ram with, to that girl in front of him hanging on the verge of tears. It was not with Natsuki Subaru, but it would have been possible for Natsuki Subaru to do it.
You can't, Ram! Stop!
Amelia, having just clambered back onto her feet, screamed in an attempt to stop Ram. However, she did not make it in time. A white light blinked through the ice cage's bars, and the shock engulfed Subaru. That shock flung his body all the way onto the ice bars beside him, behind him, and the back of his head banged against them. His head shook violently and his consciousness became hazy. Without even having time to explain himself, Natsuki Subaru's consciousness slipped away. Letting out a faint, weak groan, his consciousness began to surface. Gradually, his consciousness rose to the surface from the sludge of darkness, feeling as if he were somewhere vast, steadily accelerating, stretching into reality, and finally... The instant in which he had been about to flit into consciousness, he was yanked up by a force that felt like it had been seized him by the scruff of his neck. Sharp, hot pain burned within Subaru's mind. Groaning and writhing in pain, Subaru woke up on the cold, hard floor.
What? What's this?
His body roused by throbbing pain, Subaru reached out his left hand to his left shoulder. The moment he touched it, scorching pain once again seared his mind. He could not move his left arm at all.
Did it get yanked out my socket? Is it dislocated? Never felt this one before.
Dangling about, his arm from his shoulder was unable to move as per his will. However, when he tried to move and touch it, he felt a sharp pain. Thus, Subaru stood up with great care. He looked around at his surroundings. He saw that there was nobody around, and this room was...
The room where I hid Melee.
In other words, he was in the same room where he had been conscious up until just before. As evidence before that, behind Subaru, the ice cage Amelia had magically crafted was still there. It was strange that Subaru had been lying down outside the cage. Looking at the cage, it did not appear to have been opened, and it did not seem like he should have been able to get out by any normal means.
So, does that mean my shoulder was...
Thinking to that degree, Subaru noticed the relationship between his dislocated shoulder and his escape from the ice cage. The gaps between the bars of the ice cage were so small that it would be impossible to get between them unless he was the size of a child. By force, it should be possible to get through with his shoulder dislocated. The question was, how had Natsuki Subaru managed that while unconscious? Also,
Where have Amelia and Ram gone?
within the room, the figures of the girls who had been arguing with each other not long ago or even about to kill each other were nowhere to be seen. This situation was far too unnatural. No, it was more like a terrible situation than an unnatural one. Subaru had been knocked out of consciousness and thus knew nothing about his shoulder getting dislodged, nor of Amelia and Ram's whereabouts, nor of anyone else who had been here. Looking around the room, Subaru wondered what had happened during his blackout, looking to see whether anything strange had occurred. And there, he saw it. Natsuki Subaru was here. On the walls, everywhere he could see, those words were engraved. Cut into the stone wall, crudely shaped words were carved as if scribbled into a notepad. Had it been the fragment of stone near the wall that had done that? It appeared to have been part of the stone in the back of the room, which had originally been used to hide Meilei's dead body. Using that stone fragment, the phrase, Natsuki Subaru was here, had been engraved onto the wall. Had it just been that, the impact would not have been as great as when the same words had been carved onto his arm. Under the influence of surprise and astonishment that the redux had been brought along, he should have laughed it off as no big deal. But, however, Natsuki Subaru was here. Natsuki Subaru was here, Natsuki Subaru was here. Natsuki Subaru was here, Natsuki Subaru was here, Natsuki Subaru was here. Natsuki Subaru was here, 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 Natsuki Subaru was here. Tightly packed together, abnormally so, the words had been carved so that they completely covered the walls inside the room. They had looked so natural that Subaru had not noticed truly the uncomfortable feeling he possessed from the start. The words had been so abnormally and stubbornly engraved to the extent that they looked somewhat like an optical illusion to the excess of that pattern on the walls inside this room. For what purpose these characters have been engraved? Huh? Oi, the fuck's up with this creepy-ass room? The fuck's this decorating the halls, you prick? Shuddering, standing stock still, the voice coming from behind Subaru inspired fear. It was not down to the fact that he had not detected his presence. After all, Subaru's attention right now had been firmly fixed to the writing on the walls. He would not have noticed anyone approaching, thus, he was not surprised because of that. Subaru's surprise had come from how familiar that crude voice sounded. Its terrible memories that he had wanted to forget. Small fry, the heck you doing looking so blank, you prick? What's a small fry doing so far away from his flock? Can't you just be asking to be a bigger fish's prey? As he spoke from behind Subaru, who dared to not look back, the red-haired man laugh rang out like a shark. Oh, how he laughed indeed, the man who should, by all means, be not present. And that's the chapter.
Pachi, pachi, pachi.
I didn't do 59. I couldn't do it.
It was 19.
You did enough.
It was only 19.
19 was
Yeah, it's okay.
It was really amazing, but don't worry about it. Editors got it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll
It'll
figure
More
it
make
than
you
out.
enough
like
to work with.
This is a lot
Splash
easier to
art.
record than do live.
Yeah.
yeah. I was already like almost running out of breath before I got to that part. I was just, oh god.
Oh
Just
god,
go. Send it.
Fuck, okay. Yeah,
Good
let's
luck,
just keep this going as long
lungs.
as I can.
And then there's just me, Subaru, rotating my typical traumatized, shocked, scared noises like I'm pissing myself standing up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, oh, there's one. Okay, I get a little bit of a break. Oh god, I'm back to tweaking out.
Right.
We all tweeted out today.
It was just, oh fuck, that's Reed. Oh fuck. Jeez, what a chapter.
Yep.
Amazing
Yeah.
work,
Absolute
amazing
cinema.
work. Wee wee.
Oh,
Ram is
Ram
scary.
got him.
She's
Yeah.
She
fucking
is.
scary.
I'm gonna torture him.
Like, I'm going to torture him. Don't stop me. This is for the best.
You know, Ram's a
I'm going
kind
to
and
torture
gentle
him.
soul. She doesn't like to hurt, but she can if she
But
must.
she's good at it.
She's good at it. She hit him with the
Funny
same
too.
thing that.
Because Subaru just throws that
Agree.
line of, oh, you know, someone experienced has to do this. Oh, I'm very experienced.
Oh, I'm very
Oh,
experienced.
don't you worry about that, Barusu.
Don't you worry about that. I know what I'm doing. She hit him with the same trick that he used on Julius with Shala.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Except this
I
time,
mean,
she actually had to
Rom-
intervene.
it's also that we saw from the earlier chapters, and he should already know this. He can't fake being Subaru near Rom.
Yes. And then she's like tipping off. Yeah, I mean, he would have known that if you were Subaru, because he would have known about my clairvoyance. I was watching you the entire time. What are you talking about? Yeah, you didn't do enough homework.
it's
This
It
is
was-
why you don't just read the cliff notes.
it's
It was
crazy how,
rigged from the start.
how creepy that moment of Subaru shushing Patrichet is, and to think that Ram was watching him the entire time. He was babbling to himself and Melee about killing people.
Ooh.
The
I
side
mean, if someone-
Are the
Incredible.
real Barusu. We need to have a serious conversation.
Barsu, what the fuck?
You
Amelia,
crazy,
you did
dog.
not see what I see. He was,
A bit weird.
it's a little off.
He was
Julia,
It's
someone-
not
We might have to
okay.
vote him off. We might have to vote this guy off.
She
The
did
vote
call
him
him
off
the
the island.
imposter over and over and over again. The word that she uses,
Sus.
fake, is so easily replaced by imposter there.
Just suck
Yeah.
it back up.
Super is
sounds
the
like a good
imposter,
clip.
Amelia.
Sus, I suppose.
Holy shit, the real Superman, thank you.
Oh my god,
thanks
thank
for
you.
the-
Whoa.
Thank you, Superman.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody
Oh.
who's been supporting us the past few months, too. Appreciate y'all.
Keeping us alive.
Oh, you know what? I'm just gonna murder this person. I'm back into a corner. Fuck it. I'm gonna kill her.
Like
Fuck
you
it.
could
I've already
even-
killed
How
one
utterly
person.
Like he could.
Yeah, like he fucking.
Yeah, he could. She didn't even need Amelia in the room. Let's be real.
Yeah, this is a well-rested ROM with her wand on her person. Subaru dies
Yeah.
in two syllables.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Raise his
prepared
hand up.
when
Foo,
she
la,
hasn't
his head
been
is gone.
stabbed.
Yeah. He's
Phew. I mean, I guess she just wanted Amelia there so she wouldn't have to, like, punch him to knock him out or something, but...
well, no, because Rom is at this point suspecting like this is like we've been infiltrated.
Oh,
this
yeah,
is
'cause
someone
this
that
is
can
a sin-
disguise.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
this
yeah.
could be a
It's
witch
an archbishop.
cultist. This could be a
Oh,
this
yeah,
could be
yeah.
lust.
Yeah,
She-
yeah, that makes it, yeah. This could be... Capella Emerald Lagunica-chan sama.
you know, very reasonable assumption to think that.
Yeah.
Yes. Like, she does not
Just
know what
in
happened
from
at Priscilla,
Jake
so...
Kelly. Breaking news! Man gaslit by own trauma, spiritually owned by tsundere maid. Film at 11.
More at 11. Jesus Christ. Poor guy. Poor guy. I have amnesia! Yeah.
Yeah, you do.
Wow, really scraping the bottom of the barrel here, aren't we?
Initially,
Say
I
that
was more
again.
surprised, like, I was more surprised by Ram not going, oh yeah, then how did you know everyone's fucking names, rather than, her going, you forgot Rem, but that also, it makes sense too.
Mhm.
I think that was more insulting than anything else because that would imply that you forgot Rem, assuming he's Subaru in her mind.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
What happened like early this phase with her not really believing that.
How dare
Yeah.
you forget my
Precisely.
sister who I've forgotten myself?
Like before, it was like he said, "I have amnesia" without any proof, and she was like, yeah, I believe you,
Wink,
prove
wink.
it."
I'm in on it,
Wink,
Barasu.
wink.
Tell me the plan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
But now she has all the proof, and then Subaru goes, "I have amnesia," so she's just fine.
If,
Lucky for him that Meili's body disappeared.
Mhm.
Yeah, good job, Shala.
Good job.
Thank
Good job,
you!
Shala.
Nice job.
I saw a tasty snack!
Well, that
Can't
is
let
cleaning
the
it-
ankle biters go to waste.
I'm pretty sure that is the implication, is that when he's saying to Shala, hey, go help and look for Meili as well. And she, like, winks at him. She's like, got it. On it, master. Wink,
Yeah.
wink.
Don't you worry.
Charlotte,
This tower, I'm like the quiet housewife of this tower. That mess just cleans itself up.
Ankle biters are like little snacks.
Yum, 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 yum.
The
That just clicked to me on
appetizers.
something. Okay.
This is the first real meat I've had in a while, other than witch beast meat.
Like, ooh, tasty.
Would she not also kind of taste like witch beast meat? 'Cause
Probably,
she
actually.
tames them?
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
probably
If
some-
you-
Honestly, it's just more the same. It's comfort food at this point.
If there was a lot of smoke to mask the smell coming off of the skin and fat, then it's probably fine. It would just taste like pork again.
Mm,
Yeah,
Oh my.
It also goes back to pork.
Yeah, it does.
Mm.
pretty much.
It's just
Luckily,
the way that
in
omnivores
every
taste.
situation.
Uh-huh.
I mean, didn't she eat? She used to eat witch beasts, right?
Yeah.
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 So she
Well,
probably at
Charlotte
least to
does.
some degree tastes like witch beast.
Meili or Shala? Because it's been a long
Meili.
time since Meili did.
That's fair.
Oh.
Shala, it's been days since she has.
Yeah, she's probably still like. Let's be real. She's probably, after eating lunch or something, going on and killing a witch beast and having it as a snack.
Mm-hmm.
Snack.
Imagine having the only thing that you can do in this watchtower for 400 years be kill and eat witch beasts. That's the only thing that you have as a pastime.
Mm.
There's nothing else.
yeah, why didn't Flugel set up games like a games console or something?
Yeah!
Yeah.
Set something up.
Something.
Come on, bro. Like, at least leave a
I mean, come on,
single
even in
normal book.
Rapunzel. Yeah, like Rapunzel, she had at least 3 books and paint.
Yeah.
And paint, and paint! And a
And baking
chameleon!
stuff. Yeah, and
I don't remember.
well, I don't think she knew
That's,
about the
that's the wrong
chameleon.
one.
That's because
No,
she
that's
had
not the wrong one. That's the right one.
She had an evil mother, not an evil man. whatever
Well,
Flugel
an
was.
evil mother-like figure.
Absentee dad.
Mother-like absentee dad. Even
Yeah.
the mother-like figure does a better job at
Sean,
setting
I'm
her up.
going to buy cigarettes. I'm
Yeah.
not coming back.
Flugel is just, all right, Shala, I'm going to lock up and leave you here. I'll be back in about 2 days unless something goes wrong with Echidna. Otherwise, I'll see you then. And we'll get everything set up when I get back.
See you never, Shala.
See ya, sucker! And
Oh, no,
imagine
yeah,
those being her
sucker.
last fucking words. Imagine those being Charles' last words to Flugel for
no.
400 years. She says, "See ya, sucker! Bye, master!" And then
He never comes
Gone.
back.
he
It
never
was-
comes
It's like
back.
those assholes that like drop animals out in like the middle of nowhere, and then they're just sitting there waiting for him to come back. Like, Master,
Where
where are
you
you?
at? Fuck,
That's
Daldy.
Betty.
Well,
hurts.
Shala basically is like a puppy that's been
That's true.
abandoned.
She-
so
she's
she's
very
just trying her best.
dog-like.
She's trying her best.
Mhm.
At least unlock the iPad before you leave.
Yeah.
Master, what's the
Shala-
password? Please.
The Wi-Fi password, please.
Shala,
Master,
Mary
it's been-
died. Huh? And then she tilts her head like a dog. Yeah, okay.
A burr?
But anyway, I'm down to only 20 years of waiting for the lockout to end. So can you get me the password before then?
Leaves.
I can't get the
Shala,
password.
How many times do I tell you it's 1, 2, fucking 3?
don't speak English.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Master,
I was some
what's
idiot
the
would
number?
put on his luggage.
Master, what's the number?
What's the
Master, Master, what's 3? That wasn't on my abacus.
I can count up to 2
I only had
now.
1 and 2.
Y'all ready for the
Master.
next
Yeah,
I
chapter?
can only
next
count with
chapter
my
time,
2
I think.
hands.
I think it's chapter time.
Oh yeah.
It's chapter time.
Alright. Who's our
Have fun. I'll
narrator
be back
this
for the
time?
next one.
Yay! We're almost at you, Tail.
Still not in yet. It's okay. I'm here listening.
Survive.
Al, can you
Let's hear
test
your
your
voice.
read voice real quick for me?
Oh, he's deaf and. Oh,
I'm
there we
back.
go. Yeet.
We never knew.
Al, will you test your read voice for me real quick? It was peaking a little bit in the last chapter.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it down. I'm shitting myself.
Perfect.
Beautiful. Yes.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
I'm so glad that
No
didn't
notes.
crack at all.
This is setting up the tone of this chapter.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Good luck, kids.
Chapter time.
Arc 6, Chapter 51, Tower of the Living, Part 2. Hearing the voice of the familiar man behind him, Subaru trembled in fear, to the point that he forgot to breathe. Right in that instant, he had even forgotten about the pain from his dislocated left shoulder. His mind was dominated by a vast succession of negative emotions, such as fear and cowardice. A tempest of hopeless feelings clouded over his thoughts. A single word repeated inside his head. A single word repeating inside his head. Why? His list of whys was inexhaustible. Why was his left shoulder dislocated? Why was the phrase, Natsuki Subaru was here, carved all around the room to that extent? Why were Amelia and Rom's figures who had captured Subaru nowhere to be seen? Why was Meili's body, which he had hidden, nowhere to be seen? Why had Natsuki Subaru lost his memories? Why had Natsuki Subaru been summoned into a different world? Why couldn't he ever tell his mom and dad the truth about everything? Why?
What are you doing all huddled up? Don't be so silent, you gross bastard, you prick.
Why is the man who's not supposed to be able to come down standing here?
Suddenly, irritation rose in that man's voice, causing Subaru to whirl around in a panic. To look directly at the figure behind him was a frightening notion. In most cases, what would trigger the sense of trepidation was a fear of the unknown. However, the fear that this man inspired came from more than just the immediate risk of looking. This was far deeper than just unease from being unable to see, for this specific opponent's intent was not merely to inspire fear. Super could not help but think of it as something much closer to a straightforward urge to maim, or even to kill.
What are you looking at, you prick, with that face? Are you scared, you prick? You look like you're about to cry, you prick. You're a disgusting bastard in this fucked up room, you prick.
Smiling sardonically at Subaru, who had made up his mind as such, the man dressed in a male kimono brazenly bared his white teeth. Long, red hair, an eye patch covering his right eye, his bare chest wrapped in a white sarashi, and a muscular, well-built body. He was looking down at the pitiful Subaru. The guardian of the second floor of Pleiades' watchtower, Reed, was the man calling out to him.
Does the mouth not work, you prick? Can't you hear me speak? Or are you trying to show that you got no plans of speaking to me? If that's the way it is, I don't really mind, but still, I guess it feels more dignifying that way.
Bluntly stating this out loud, with words that show utmost arrogance, Reed stared at Subaru with an angry expression on his face. Whilst being overwhelmed by the hostility coming from Reed, Subaru forced his lips into a mumble.
Right. Wasn't your eye patch on your left eye? Why is it on your right eye?
It was a question that he should not have uttered right now. As Subaru asked him, Reed's eyes flickered slightly, and just after that, the man clanged his teeth together.
It's the way Amila's eye finds for me, you prick. That's the way it is. I put it on just when I feel like messing about. If I don't put it on, I'll end up seeing way too much crap. It's just that kind of thing.
As Reed said that, he turned over the eye patch covering his right eye using his fingers, and there below his eye patch were no wounds, his eye in good health, exactly as he had stated. And of course, there were no signs of injuries to his uncovered left eye. In short, his words had been completely true. He understood that his eye patch was really only an item for doing something because he wanted to. Even so, for him, it was a pastime needed for bridging the power gap between himself and others.
Ah, what, you prick? Oi! Ain't your shoulder dislocated? I did think it looked a little weird.
Immediately after he had felt such profound emotion, a burning sensation scorched the lining of Subaru's brain with a sudden impact. His throat constricted with sharp pain, and his field of view around him flickered, pierced by great anguish. Regarding it with no consideration or hesitation, Reed had grasped Subaru's dislocated shoulder with his right hand. With a mere twist of his wrist, he had casually inserted the dislocated bone into its socket amongst the shoulder. The dislodged bone had been fixed, echoing a dull click across the room. The feeling of movement returned to his left shoulder. However, the pain for a moment had become negligible or returned to him. Tears pouring down Subaru's cheeks as the pain made him feel like cursing the world around him.
Don't just be acting so over the top, you prick. It looks like I'm picking on you when you make it look like that, damn it. As a matter of fact, it's not me who's bullying you, you prick. More so it's that smoking hottie.
Smoking hottie?
That smoking hottie with the silver hair, you prick. The ice cage behind you. I can pretty much tell by looking at that, plus your dislocated shoulder. Did you fall out with your friends? How amusing.
Reed snorted this back at Subaru, the latter holding his left shoulder and groaning in pain. Having heard those words, Subaru understood he had referred to Amelia when talking about a smokin' hottie. And, at the same time, regarding what had happened in the room between Subaru and everyone else, Subaru feared that Reed's observant eye must have grasped what had happened.
How do you know?
Stuck inside this depressing tower, stuck between a man and a woman will either improve beyond imagination or decline beyond imagination. Those are the only two options. When it comes to you, you're the type of people to piss people off before belief. It's not so hard to figure that one out.
In all honesty, none of those conclusions were wrong. Therefore, Subaru had no way to refuse those words. Tearing his gaze away from Subaru, Reed returned to glance at Amelia's ice cage. Twisting his neck, he strode huffily away from Subaru's side, eyeing the ice cage for a moment before he stomped on it, applying force but for a brief moment. In that instant, the structure gave a sharp, cracking sound, and in the next, the destructive force spread to the entirety of the resilient prison, shattering the lattice entirely. Needless to say, no matter how hard Subaru had tried, he had not been able to shift that ice cage even slightly. The cage's integrity had refused to yield. Whether in terms of magic or strength, the disparity between them had been immediately revealed with a simple glance, leaving Subaru dumbstruck. Putting Subaru's reaction to the side, Reed stretched his hands and feet lightly.
Well, looks like you can move it again, all right. Excellent, excellent indeed.
Muttering that, making sure he had some kind of feeling there, he slowly stepped out from the room. He took absolutely no notice of Subaru, who stood stock still, perplexed out of his mind by that attitude. The confusion had still not settled down. He was not able to completely grasp what had happened, but he knew that, in this place, taking his eyes away from Reed would result in nothing good. Because first of all...
Wait up! Didn't you say you couldn't come down from the floor above? Why are you walking around this floor like it's normal?
As Reed walked along the corridor of the 4th floor with complete indifference, Subaru rushed out of the room. Quite unpretentiously, staring at Reed's back as he gated across the floor with an air of majesty, Subaru threw out the one question which had been inside his head since the beginning. In response, Reed waved his hand without even looking at him.
When did I say that I couldn't walk out of the 2nd floor? If that's what you're saying, then ain't that a little bit unfair? Don't you worry. Your assumption that I can't leave is a bit of truth of it. I only became able to leave just now.
Just now? Wait, so may I ask why the premise collapsed?
I ain't gonna give you a full lecture to explain everything. I can walk about. You're about to piss yourself. That's that, the end. Wait, it's not the end yet.
Following Reed in his wake, Subaru caught up to him. Changing the tone of his voice, Reed narrowed his eyes at him. Subaru's body shrank in place as Reed distorted his cheeks at him. It looked like he could kill him with merely his sharp eyes. The red-haired swordsman, who did not carry weapons along with him, unarmed. With merely the glint in his eyes, the man's gaze would be enough to put someone to the sword. And so Subaru took a deep breath.
What the...
Excellent. Keep blustering on like that, you prick. If you can't even do that, then you got no right to call yourself a man. So, I got a question for you, you borderline failed man. I'm not a bid this to present tower very well, but what the fuck's your buddies you fell out with run after?
Huh?
As the hostility exuding from the man nearby squeezed his heart, this surprising remark fell upon Subaru's ears, causing his eyes to widen. Seizing the disheveled Subaru's reaction, Reed naturally continued with the, "You prick."
I'm planning to get out of here, but I need food, water, and sake. Let's not even talk about the woman. Well, your friends, that's the smoking hottie and that sexy little woman, are certainly fine prospects, though. Since I feel guilty seducing the smoking hottie, the sexy woman gotta be the prime candidate for that.
Leaving? This... tower? But what about your examination? No! What about everything else? What are you going to do about this situation and everything that's going on?
Everything you said ain't got shit to do with me. Your issues to be solved by yourself. I got nothing to do with it. Hold up. There's one disgusting task left.
If it's disgusting, leave it.
As Subaru's eyebrows had knitted into a grimace at those words, Reed's facial expression suddenly changed, jabbing at Subaru's forehead with his finger. Subaru's back crashed against the wall of the corridor due to the sheer strength of the poke. Looking down at Subaru laying in a painful heap beneath him, Reed snorted out a "Humph."
I already told you. Don't you think you'll be able to get an answer to everything, you little chicken? Are you a small fry or a little chicken? Time to grip beneath your feet, you prick.
That's a problem of your own definition.
Don't use me, who so fortunately appeared before you as a tool to dispel your worries, questions, or regrets with. Your issues are for you to solve. Don't use me as a crutch.
Calling those words akin to something like irritated was not quite right. Feelings of irritation had some emotion to them, but Reed did not care at all about Subaru's existence. A person would not get emotional over someone they did not care about. Thus, his voice was devoid of any irritation. However, just these over-the-shoulder words were enough for Subaru to feel as if a knife had been stuck into his heart. Groaning from that pain, once again the questions left behind were filling Subaru's lurching mind, as if they were going to bury up to his heart. But before that happened...
It came.
Swiveling his head to look towards the end of the aisleway, Reed grumbled as if something was up. Lifting his head, Subaru's eyes were also lured towards that direction, pointing them at the place Reed was looking towards, but he was unable to spot anything different there. However, he realized it belatedly. Crouched down, his buttocks against the floor, he took notice of it. A faint tremor. The tower was quaking. Faintly, not quite on the same scale as an earthquake, but he felt tremors nonetheless. Clacking his teeth together and laughing, his eyes shining, Reed stepped forward, sandals firmly treading against the floor. Seeing his unhesitating manner from the corner of his eyes, Subaru panicked, following in his trail. Reed had stated that he should not use him as a tool to dispel his own worries. It was undeniable. There was no doubt in Subaru that Reed's words had cut him right into his frail heart. Subaru's issues could not be solved by merely complaining about them to Reed. However, apart from that, Subaru now had a responsibility to get to the bottom of the reason for Reed meandering about the 4th floor, and for what was happening in the tower in general.
Reed! Hey! Wait up! Wait up! At the very least, tell me, what are you going to do?
With long strides and a quick pace, Reed's back was proudly advancing forward, and he did not deign to stop and answer Subaru's question. His shoulder was in pain. There was bewilderment and confusion in his heart. He possessed not any assertiveness. Subaru was being driven by his half-hearted obligation. He had no other choice but to chase with utmost effort at the back of the man treading forward. And suddenly, the back of the man with the swaying long red hair abruptly ground to a halt and stopped. Reed had stopped his feet as he reached the spiral staircase present in the atrium at the end of the corridor, the place where the amnesiac Natsuki Subaru had twice been pushed to his death. As Subaru had been busy frantically chasing after Reed, he only noticed where he stood at the last second. He held his breath, frozen in place. However, his desire of wanting to break the deadlock surpassed the feeling of avoiding this place that brought about his death, and lent Subaru the strength to move forward. It was not the place that had killed Subaru. It was evil that had killed Subaru. It was not the place that ought to cause him to harbor these feelings of avoidance. Rather, the main cause of this should be attributed to the culprit. The beating of his heart and the sound of his blood flowing through his veins felt frighteningly loud. Ignoring that, Subaru wiped a bead of sweat off and pushed on towards where Reed had stopped. Reed was standing at the edge of the drop, looking down below at the scene his eyes regarded. Wherever he might be, he was a man to whom the posture of looking down on things was quite suiting. Whilst thinking such an useless thought in the depths of his mind, Subaru followed his gaze. Tracing his gaze, he finally noticed it. Having been lost in his noisy heartbeat, a sound that he had not heard before was now audible to him. Right beneath him, at the bottom of the large staircase, having appeared out of nowhere onto the 5th floor, a repulsive herd of witched beasts of flame were now filling up the hall, presenting him with a spectacle of absolute hell. Witnessing the display from beyond even his wildest imaginations, Subaru's senses went completely white. The cracking of the scorching crimson flames and the sound of countless wailing infants dwelt in the tower. Connecting those two factors led to one and only conclusion. That was, this terrifying witch beast, which wore a mane of flame around its neck, was only one part of a violent chaos of a horde. 4 legs and a torso akin to that of a horse, an upper body with arms comparable to a human's, and a gaping maw complete with fangs spreading throughout the human half. The dreadful heat's flames were about to scorch and devour the oxygen within the tower. There were about 20 witch beasts at this place, or thereabouts. He could witness them rampaging about below him on the 5th floor. The dreadful heat had reached up from below towards Subaru and Reed, dozens and dozens of meters up high. Flinching back, he was taken surprise by this heat wave, to the extent that he felt like his eyeballs were drying up in an instant. What was really going on there?
So there's some creepy-ass witch beasts here, huh? You prick, you know what they are?
I don't know. It's the first time seeing witch beasts for me too, other than that huge earthworm.
Next to Subaru, who could keep his eyes off the scene, stood Reed, looking at the exact same spectacle, issuing that question to him. Subaru shook his head at that query, his voice unintentionally trembling at the change in his view. The witch beasts were rampaging inside the tower, garbed in flame, looking like both a horse and a man. A more convenient term to call them would be centaurs. The centaurs let out a piercing yell. Coming out from their warped maws was a violent yell, a shrill roar, as if caused by sheer fury, and the reason for that was the lone knight who was fighting back, swinging his slender sword, weaving his way through the herd of witch beasts. Holding his breath, an elegant sword slipped through a gap in the herd of witch beasts who carried swords of flame. Blood scattered, the arms and legs of a witch beast were severed. Its delayed shriek reverberated around the surroundings. Whilst listening to this, the knight who risked being overwhelmed by the amount of centaurs sprung forward and leapt towards the next beast, sword poised. It was...
Julius!
Reflexively, Subaru's lips called out his name, deeply moved at having found a savior. He could not tell which emotion was stronger within himself, the one of joy or grief. Nevertheless, immediately after his consciousness leapt, he had done something unknown. There had been a situation like that once before, where he found himself with Meili's corpse beside him. He was incapable of saying for sure that the next time he met with someone, they would end up as a corpse or not. There was always such a fear in him. Therefore, it was good news he had broken through this fear. Putting aside the expression of surprise from above, beneath Subaru's eyes, Julius swung his sword and continued his melee against the witch beasts. Although he was at a disadvantage in terms of numbers, it was a situation where the strength of one was probably not equal to that of Julius. Although the witch beasts which freely emitted flame thought of swarming Julius, possessing only a sword to fend them off, would mean his limits would be called upon.
And if he burnt to death, then his Book of the Dead should appear in the library.
Ah, where are all the others? Well, I guess this is convenient.
In the moment a dark thought desiring for the death of his companion had floated across Subaru's mind, Reed's muttering, as he gazed at the scene below, jerked his thoughts back to reality. But Reed was unaware of Subaru's internal conflict. Baring his fangs, he took a step forward, already on the verge of falling to the depths below. He stepped forward again.
Hey, what are you going to do?
Is he ability asking questions? Stop relying on me to try and pull some daring moves every once in a while. Talking up you is completely no fun. You're not a sexy lady for me to feast my eyes on, nor are you interested to talk to. You prick, what's intense are you trying to talk to me? Let me ask you again, the hell are you gonna do? One of your comrades is just right there, trying to face a bunch of disgusting witch beasts, and you're still just standing? To say that weak guys ain't got options is just a pitiful excuse.
Just like a carnivore making sport of an herbivore, so did Reed's philosophy echo the right of the strong. The philosophy's incompatibility with Subaru only served to reinforce its veracity. That was the sheer disparity between the strong and the weak. Without a word nor glance to Subaru, Reed at last stepped into motion, leaning forward slightly. There had been no chance to stop him. Like this, Reed fell to the floor, weightless, tracing the path that Subaru had followed to his death. Straight, straight, straight down Reed fell. Back then, Natsuki Subaru's consciousness had left him before he had crashed into the ground, and he had not been able to even see the moment which had actually brought upon his demise. The red-haired swordsman, Reed, dropped down in the same way, falling, thump, thump. Its back being struck by sandals falling from such great heights. A centaur's equine body was crushed. Its limbs, unable to bear that impact, shattered. It was unbelievable how the witch beast's huge body had been smashed. Blood, the color of black ink, sprang out, staining the floor of the 5th floor. Completing the scene was falling from a height that would have been fatal to Subaru, energetically stomping on the remains of the witch beast. The violence of Reed Estrella. The witch beasts, which likely did not possess intelligence judging from their looks, ceased their movements. Noticing the chaotic appearance of the red-haired man, their baby-like wails stopped. Looking closely revealed that these headless witch beasts were using their non-visual senses to gauge their opponent, was what Subaru surmised. Reed's abnormality was clear to him, using just their organs remaining that were devoid of sight. The observation was equally apparent to the knight, with all 5 senses intact, who had been engaged in a vigorous battle with those creatures. You? Why are you here?
Why? Is there anything else y'all pricks can ask at all? What's the secret to being popular with women? What's the best kind of alcohol? Why would you get so strong, for instance?
Standing in front of Julius, whose eyes were wide open in sheer shock, Reed brushed away the pieces of meat on the soles of his sandals. He turned his hand to another centaur standing beside him. As if it were a joke, in his hand he held a thin, wooden stick. He could see that he was holding a chopstick.
Secret to being popular with women's my face, the best kind of alcohols. Grant here, brandy, and as for how I'm the strongest in the damn world, simply 'cause I'm me.
Pausing for a moment after he finished speaking, Reed moved the chopsticks at his fingertips ever so slightly. In the next moment, the frozen centaur's body exploded in a shower of blood. Slow to detect the collapse of its body, the witch beast finally released the cries of its throes of death. Those screams, reminiscent of the cries of a baby, clinging desperately to this world, were indeed the worst in taste. However, a smile remained firmly on the face of the man who had caused all this. He raised his unbloodied weapons, his chopsticks, once more, this time not towards the witch beasts, but Julius. Then, looking at the yellow irises of the faraway Julius, who seemed to dread those chopsticks far beyond what he appeared to, Reed bared his fangs.
Alright, let's get the rest of this examination going. Try and wrench him away before I get bored with this, you prick.
And that's chapter 51.
Yay!
Amazing job, guys.
Great work.
You okay?
Amazing work.
Whew, Tower of the Living.
Time for round 2.
Electric fight.
Or 3, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's round 3. Time to get pieced up for a third
Round
time.
3.
Bros,
Fight.
This one is called God, Please Forgive Me.
usually there's a mercy rule if you win 2 out of the 3 matches. Come on, bro. He's already won 2. Let him rest.
All right. Now, due to our timing, I will, if we have anything big to say, of course, we'll take a few moments. But do you guys want to dive into the next chapter?
Yes.
Yeah, let's just go.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Hi.
All right. Here we go. Arc 6, Chapter 52. God, please forgive me. An unpleasant sword dance began to unfold, with the stage behind the atrium of the 5th floor. With his long red hair flying about, the eye patch-clad man flawlessly weaved left and right, with absolute control of his burly body, wielding only short, fragile sticks of wood. Unfolding right on the stage was an unbelievable spectacle. A witch beast in the form of a centaur rushed towards the redhead, its half-human, half-horse form raising a cry that sounded like something a newborn baby would emit. The witch beast's upper half, the human part, had no head. It wielded a sword of flame, carrying it in both hands, were one's body to come into contact with this immeasurable, scorching heat, even if only merely a graze, certainly it would end up becoming carbonized. And yet, how was it that the man was doing this? He had twisted his body into this dance within the searing heat, fending it off as if it was child's play, using only those plain-as-day wooden sticks that he carried about. Flames did not alight upon the wooden sticks, which had successfully warded the creature off. They did not catch on fire. Why? Perhaps it was just because he was swinging those wooden sticks faster than they could catch on fire and burn. The reason why his wooden sticks were not seared by the fire was because he was swinging the sticks faster than they could catch a flame. The reason why he had warded off those slashes of flame was because he would shift his sword flashes, conferring unto them the minimal amount of strength needed with the gale of his blades. And it seemed like the reason why that man found this so enjoyable, as the air around him became red hot with murderous intent, was because he was absolutely insane. Fully enjoying this crazy situation like it were the prime of this world, Reed, in this crazed state, resumed the examination.
Look! Oh, what happened, you prick? Are you playing, you prick? Unlike before, it's time to get serious, you prick. Use your companions around you. Time to take vengeance on me. Come on!
while bellowing angrily, with spittle flying from his mouth into the midst of the flames. Reed held a wooden stick in each hand. In a similar manner to how those blue eyes glared at him, Julius was encircled by the flames around him. As Julius dealt with the witch beasts around him with sword in hand, a sudden feeling of tension and bewilderment floated across his face. He wished not to pay any heed to the words of Reed, who, as expected, was treating this as if it were song and dance. And with that same expression, Julius shouted out,
What in the world? What are you thinking? All these witch beasts came from the basement. This is a big deal for the tower. We should combine our strength.
Wow, this bearded dude who's a well-mannered swordster, you're still a well-mannered how you think too, huh? Ah, you like this. Can you even enjoy living? From my experience, guys who hold off on doing what they want to do live much more boring lives than guys who do what they want to. Understand, you prick?
What do you?
First of all, what's the problem with letting these disgusting burning horses run around? They're only so bothersome as rain to me. Except rain's plenty bothersome because I can feel the hair, you see.
Julius's argument had come from a sensible point of view, but Reed laughed at it like it had been madness-spurned nonsense from a madman's reasoning. Comparing the flock of clearly murderous witch beasts of flame to something on the same level as the rain served as proof that any reasoning within Reed was long dead. There were no chances of there being any proper logic to it, holding no meaning save for filling the minds of those listening with confusion and chaos. Upon hearing this, Julius was disturbed by a thought he had never even considered, and as a result, a trace of hesitation was born in him as he brandished his sword, and his parry to the centaur's attack was belated.
On.
Julius did not meet the arcing, flaming sword with his sword. He instead dodged it with something like a backward somersault. And straight afterwards, another centaur came to trample his head under its hooves. He avoided it by jumping forwards using his momentum from his landing. He thrusted his sword towards the body of the witch beast that had been wielding the flaming sword just before, as the witch beasts behind them screamed. As he went to turn around, a hoof kick caught Julius's left shoulder. There was a muffled sound, and then a look of anguish ran across his handsome features. Even so, he used the momentum of the hoof to turn his body around, and with his knight's sword, he cut down the witch beast by its legs, and with one mighty sword sweep, he ran his sword through its body. Then he slammed the pommel of his own sword into his bleeding left shoulder. The sound of raw meat and bone reverberated, far more drastic than had been the case when Reed had treated Subaru's own shoulder. His bones slotted back into place.
That's that. How bad that expression is.
As their giant burning bodies and trampling hooves transformed the fifth floor into a burning hellhole, only one person, Julius, had dared to fight against everyone's despair. Reed was pleased by this, with a cruel smile taking form on his face. The witch beasts, unable to reason, would consider Reed and Julius equally harmful opponents. However, their troublesomeness was clearer than flame for any possessing intelligence. Stained with blood, lacking his usual elegance, Julius's sword kept the witch beasts' attacks at bay and steadily cut them down one by one. Meanwhile, Reed did not seem troubled, and with martial arts skills that were about the same, or higher than Julius, he was reaping the lives of the witch beasts as if he were a deity of death. And, in the meanwhile...
But watch your step. Oh, well, though, from how I see it, you gotta watch your everywhere.
Picking his ear seemingly in boredom, Reed's long legs slammed into Julius's back, which had been turned towards the former. How much power had been in that kick? Having received it, Julius's body was blown away with ease, just like a stone wrapped up in a piece of cloth, and crashed into the tower's wall. The impact could be felt reverberating all throughout the tower. The witch beasts let out a shrill cry, welcoming their prey's predicament. The herd of witch beasts rushed forward in a mad scramble towards Julius, who was coughing up blood hunched down on the floor. Julius slid his torso up from the ground, and as he kicked out at one of the hooves with his long legs, he jumped back onto his feet. Using that momentum, Julius clambered up using the shoulders and the torso of one of the witch beasts that had rushed forward as a foothold and tried to break through their encirclement. He pointed his left hand towards a gap left in between the witch beasts. Nothing happened. Grasping his protruding left hand, Julius's face showed bitterness. The witch beasts had turned around, drawing near towards Julius because of that gap.
Like this, you ain't even gotten serious yet, you prick.
Julius found himself between the witch beasts, while Reed sighed and waved his stick as he cut in. Holding one each in both hands, a heavy gust of wind was raised as he swung them, lifting around about 10 of the centaurs up into the air. A sensation of being unaware at what had happened arose in the witch beasts as they felt their hooves floating in midair. Right there, Reed gently took a step and jumped in, up, towards the witch beasts. One by one, he cleaved the torsos in half, pierced their heart, broke their upper body, destroying all of the witch beasts, massacring them all, total annihilation in different manners. From flying in the air to scattering their corpses on the ground, everything had happened in about 2 or 3 seconds. The witch beasts, known for their tremendous lethality, had been killed without anything they could do about it, all destroyed. Then, the centaurs which filled the 5th floor were swept away, and it felt like there was some room for relief.
Geez, there in the end, one after another they emerged from the nest.
Reed clicked his tongue and, as if to confirm what he had said and indicated, from the stairs that led towards the 6th floor underneath, the sounds of hooves and the cries of their baby-like voices were once again approaching the 5th floor. If this went on, due to the accumulation of the corpses, it would only be a matter of time before the witch beasts would go up. If the sand sea outside was the natural habitat of these witch beasts, it was impossible to fathom that they would run out of stock. Reed seemed to have a similar idea, and he slowly crossed his arms together.
It's the time where man comes down feeling like leaving and throwing a few things on my plate and... they're just getting in the way. They're fucking annoying, ahoy!
Wait. Go out. Things are in this state, and you are still saying you want to go outside the tower?
Yeah, that's my conclusion. Like I said, these guys ain't nothing but drops of rain. Plain one's just boring. They ain't really nothing special. Only a smoking hottie was capable of playing with me. The rest of all you prick can't even match up to my level at all.
Clenching his teeth, Julius was highly dissatisfied with Reed's attitude, but he hesitated to express that. If he lost his temper here, the discussion with Reed would break down. In this case, the situation would be against both Reed Estrella and the witch beasts. Yes, that was what Julius's rationality had settled on. Glancing at him, seeing Julius's hesitation an instant and the anguish that was clear as day.
Nothing can be done about it, it's their nature.
Reed was disappointed from the bottom of his heart, and he muttered, which made Julius's cheeks become stiff. How much anguish was coursing there? Julius's, his expression an overly complex emotional vortex. It was like a child heading for the top of the mountain which was covered by clouds. The pain within his heart was absolutely invisible to everyone other than him. However, it was immediately afterwards that the hellfire spouting from below rose up, aiming at Julius. All of what was happening below was well visible to the mediocre guy looking down at the battlefield from up high. With everything having reached this point, as Natsuki Subaru overlooked the 5th floor fight from above, he realized that he had even forgotten to breathe because of the situation downstairs. Beneath his eyes, the melee between Reed and Julius, with the witch beasts added to the equation, was on an absurd dimension, in which Subaru, lump of banality as he was, could not even think of intruding. Struck with admiration towards Reed, who operated far outside the norm, he could feel nothing but fresh-born awe towards him. But, for the first time, he had witnessed Julius's fight. His swordsmanship and skills were at a level at which Subaru could not remotely take advantage of him. If Subaru challenged him, he would definitely have all his limbs lopped off in an instant. It would only be an ugly defeat. To face him without utmost seriousness, with only a wooden practice sword, well, that nonchalant face would never waver. There would only be agonizing, crushing defeat. Whether it was Amelia, or Julius, or Rom, it was all the same. Or, say, Beatrice and Echidna as well, not to mention Shala, and everyone in this tower. Natsuki Subaru's meager power could not be compared with theirs. He had taken them, the people of this world, the inhabitants of this fantasy world, far too lightly. Weak and young, Meili was the only one he had killed. Even then, it had been Natsuki Subaru who had performed that deed, which meant that Subaru did not participate in that. He could not kill what he was unable to kill. Natsuki Subaru realized that he lacked the strength to fulfill the Book of the Dead plan. After realizing that, Natsuki Subaru's heart became hesitant. Amazed while standing, Julius lost his calm and was slow to notice the witch beasts behind him. Reed had indeed noticed them, but showed no signs of warning him. At this rate, Julius would be immolated to death by the flames of the witch beasts, who were approaching him from behind. The fulfillment of the possibility that had crossed his mind before, that Julius's Book of the Dead would also be added to the library. Subaru could not make the situation unfold with his own hands. It would be a tragedy. By going with the flow of the situation, Subaru would push Julius to his death.
Behind you! Julius!
Upon hearing that scream, Julius's body reflexively unstiffened. Without hesitation, his slender body flew to the right, over the hellfire that had been set loose from behind him, and swept across the floor of the 5th floor, incinerating everything in its wake. Explosive flames which dyed the air crimson. The source of this continuous emission was a witch beast an entire size larger than all the previous ones. A difference in the body size between adults and children, adolescents and adults. Whether or not such distinctions existed amongst witch beasts, Subaru felt such a discrepancy in their power levels. Cloaked by the flames, the big centaur made a piercing noise, gathering several other smaller centaurs around him. Once again, the 5th floor was swarmed by a herd. The situation returned once again into a stalemate. Having been caught up in the aftermath of the hellfire, Julius flung off the burning cloak, having had its hem set alight by tongues of fire, without turning back towards the witch beasts, with now nimble figure. His gaze was now turned overhead, towards Subaru, who was feeling desperate and unable to move. That moment, even with the distance between them, Julius's and Subaru's gazes crossed with each other's. Even though they were clearly quite a distance apart, in positions where they could not even see the other's face clearly, Subaru felt the complex emotion buried in those yellow eyes, letting out a groan from the depths of his throat. Doubt, confusion, hesitation, worry, various shades of negative emotions swirled around within the depths of his eyes. They pierced straight into the depths of Natsuki Subaru's inexpressible guilt. And then, just after, speaking this to Subaru, who wanted to do nothing but run away from there, Julius spoke out.
I am leaving Echidna, Anastasia-sama, in your hands!
Julius pointed his sword towards Subaru. No, not at Subaru. Behind him, his shot was likely to point up to the 4th floor. With trust that was cracked and full of scars, he had clung on to this supplication. Or perhaps as it had been the right thing to shout right now. Even Julius himself could not brush away all his doubts. Those were words he shouted among all this. Doubtful, confused, hesitant, concerned, he still did not stop and made a decision. That was why. Like a bullet, Subaru lifted his heavy legs, which were attached to the ground, and ran as fast as he could. Scrambling forward while stumbling, he clumsily ran. He turned his back to the spiral staircase and started running. He did not know the destination. Was he escaping or not escaping? He did not even know that anymore. He did not understand his feelings, but even so, he could not stop running. Leaving Julius downstairs, in the place where there was a horde of witch beasts and Reed, Subaru ran away like a rabbit.
Oh, truly no helping it then, nature.
In the distance, Reed, who was watching the situation from afar, muttered silently. Mutters which seemed identical to his previous one. Whether or not a touch of emotion was lodged into them was unclear. Why did he scream? Why couldn't he let him die right there? While he sprinted, almost running out of breath, Subaru questioned himself over and over again in his head. Why did he scream? Why couldn't he let him die right there?
Letting him die shouldn't feel any different than killing him yourself, right?
Embracing Subaru's back as he ran, the shade of the girl sentimentally grumbled her complaint. The shade had not come out even once after Reed's appearance. Her voice, although, cursed him with, "Even though my neck was strangled," entirely torturing Subaru. In actual fact, it was like that. Subaru's actions were contradictory. His thoughts, his actions, his desires, and his goals, none of them aligned. The Book of the Dead plan was constantly in a corner of his head. That craving awaited eagerly for an opportunity. The shade of the deceased girl could see through Subaru's conflicts, so why did he, even when she had given him a push in the back by calling out to him in his time of doubt, waste his chance? He had given Julius a chance to escape the line of fire. However, in the end, he had remained downstairs, where the danger of Reed and the witch beasts was very much still present. It was a half-hearted way of leaving someone to die. Was it that he just did not wish to be involved in the actual scene? Having strangled Melee with his own hands, the depths of his heart had that impulsive horror engraved upon it. Could he say that it was such that he wished not to see someone else die in front of him? Was that why he ran away so desperately? Regardless of the words, and everything, which had been left to him by Julius, entrusted by Julius. Subaru! While he was absorbed in his thoughts, Subaru's feet were abruptly stopped by an overbearing call. When he stopped in his tracks, lurching forward, the voice he heard came from a side passage that he had gone past without noticing. Coming from the other side of the corner, a shadow rushed over to Subaru. It was... "I was looking for you, in fact. Right now, going there is too dangerous, I suppose."
Beatrice? And...
Holding up the hem of her dress, Beatrice came running up to him with an earnest expression. After Julius, Subaru felt both relief and surprise at the same time at having confirmed her safety as well. However, the surprises did not cease there. Someone else was accompanying her from behind.
Echidna! Why are you two together?
It had to be here that I met you, Natsuki-kun.
With a slightly disturbed breath, the girl following behind Beatrice, Echidna, grumbled so. Aside from the surprise of the unexpected meeting, what had taken a strict hold of Subaru's heart even more was the emotion in Echidna's pale green eyes, which were being cast his way. That clear-as-day suspicion would be made aware to someone in Subaru's position, whether they wanted or not. Reed, of course, knew nothing. Julius and Beatrice's demeanors clearly indicated that they also did not know anything at all. However, Echidna's demeanor told a different story. Echidna knew about the exchange that Subaru, Amelia, and Ram had had in the room where he hid Meili's corpse, during which he was locked up in a prison of ice. And possibly, that might not be limited to only her. He remembered how Julius had looked at him with a complex emotion at the end. All of them had supposedly shared what happened to Subaru when he woke up. So it was only natural for Echidna to react this way. Rather,
Beatrice, you're...
right now's not the time to talk about that, in fact. Come over here, I suppose. However, in contrast to Subaru, who was remembering his hesitation, Beatrice one-sidedly took his hand. Subaru's quivering voice was blotted out, caught off guard by her action, having been grabbed by her tiny hand. As a matter of fact, if they had been informed by Ram and the others of his circumstances, it was immeasurable how much determination would be required to go ahead with this action. It was such a careless move that it made Subaru want to question their sanity.
Beatrice, are you serious? You escaped the cage in a situation like this.
However, Beatrice taking Subaru's hand made Echidna's face go pale and scream at them. She was questioning the pros and cons of Beatrice's actions. She raised her own hand above and pointed one of her fingers towards Subaru. The look of that gesture held more pressure. That seemingly restrained attitude did not seem like a bluff to Subaru. To him, the situation was very much akin to being held at gunpoint. However, the threat to his life, Subaru took it as a matter of course. From Echidna's point of view, being wary of Subaru was obvious. Beatrice was, for some reason. Even now, standing in front of Subaru and standing off even against Echidna.
Hold it, Beatrice. With such odd behavior, siding with him is a dangerous choice, so I cannot allow it. Just as Ram warned, he's not Natsuki Subaru.
That's not true, in fact. Holding his hand like this. Betty, who has been in contract with him like this, knows, I suppose. Subaru and Betty are still bound by our contract, in fact. You would understand this if you're in the same position as Betty, I suppose.
Even if that is the case, he is still untrustworthy. Escaping his cage in circumstances like this? How can I trust him at all? There is no possible explanation for this.
As Echidna screamed so, her expression held the strongest emotion he had ever seen of her. To date, she had always stifled her feelings skillfully. That she had always given off that air now seemed painfully anxious. Continuously forceful, she desperately tried to eliminate the threat before her. Desperately doing so. An overwhelming number of witch beasts were overflowing downstairs. Every single thing happening in this tower was to be feared. It was natural she would have an outburst when thrown into that impossible situation, he thought while looking at that.
Just... whatever.
Subaru? The eyes of Beatrice, who was holding his hand, widened in shock upon hearing Subaru's whisper. That Beatrice's small, soft hand was then released. With a sudden sound, something that had until now been pulled taut snapped. Snapped like so.
What are you trying to do?
With Subaru having pushed away Beatrice's shoulders, Echidna furrowed her brow at him as he stepped forward. Bewildered, her caution was more than that. Even then, Subaru's heart did not falter.
Just as you see. I'm giving up. Just do whatever you want with me.
He felt like his emotions could not stir into anything else now, other than having whatever happens, happen. He had committed a crime he did not remember. He desperately wanted to conceal all of it, causing those around him to be suspicious. And if he just tried to stay in peace, his life would be targeted, all while being continuously frightened by the shadow of Natsuki Subaru.
With that admirable attitude, do you think we will lower our guard? If so, you are making a big mistake. From the bottom of my heart, I cannot trust you.
Fine. Whatever. You're free to add that into. This tower is finished.
Subaru could not handle it. He had gone over his mental capacity, having gone through one too many impossible situations. This was just him wanting to grumble at his blockade. However, it seemed that Echidna thought differently.
This tower is... In other words, you've already achieved your goal?
My goal?
Do not feign ignorance. Your goal is with the witch's shrine, is it not? Because your goal is fulfilled, everything reveals its true nature. I should have followed Anna's intuition. I should have not brought anyone else here.
Echidna's voice, speaking with anguish, was filled with contrition and remorse. It was like Subaru was unknowing of its origin. Just now, she was seeing something Subaru could not. Moreover, she suspects that Subaru was related to that. But did it even matter? The end of the world was approaching. Subaru! Subaru! What's wrong with you, in fact? The way you're talking, it's nothing like Subaru, I suppose. You can't stop in such a place like this, in fact.
Like me.
Beatrice appealed and pulled Subaru's sleeve, whose expression had completely disappeared. The trembling voice shook his ears, and Subaru stared at Beatrice.
What is being like me? Just where is that being like me, which you guys are seeing?
Amnesia. Do you intend to continue your disgusting farce? You know that Ram has lost her memories of her little sister, or Julius who has forgotten? And the fact that many have had their memories of their precious ones erased, and yet you maintain your cruel act.
Act! Act, you say? Give me a fucking break! If it's acting, then it isn't obvious. I'd act with much more determination. Who would like to become Natsuki Subaru by their choice? Who would become that fucking disgusting guy?
With his brain a total mess, Subaru burst out with anger at Echidna, surpassing her own. Had they the freedom of choice, had they the luxury of being picky, who would like to become Natsuki Subaru? Twisted, unbearable. That was the kind of existence he was. Just who would want that?
Just who? Who would wish to become Natsuki Subaru? You're all ganging up on me! Who do you think you are? I lost everything! I was just coming back from the convenience store! All I remember is that there was just the store clerk with me! From that, suddenly, a different world. A tower of sand. A dead body! Examinations! Fakeness! Natsuki Subaru! Don't mess with me! Don't mess with me! That's right! It must be my fault! I came here when I shouldn't have had! I didn't want to go back home! I was too scared to bother Dad and Mum by putting on a fake look on my face! So I was all excited in the beginning! But only in the beginning!
Beatrice and Echidna were staring open-eyed at the emotions of the exploding Subaru. They surely would not know their meaning. To them, Subaru's anguish was simply meaningless. He had also confessed of this being a different world for him. However, they did not understand the meaning of different world in its truest sense. There was an unquestionable gap between their understanding. Subaru was not the Natsuki Subaru they were seeking.
You
Likewise, they too would never become the salvation Subaru was seeking.
You must all be thinking why I'm blowing my temper right now, all of a sudden. Right? I don't know either, but I've just suddenly reached my limit because I'm like this. Something that was perfectly fine snapped. Even if I was implored, I can't do anything. Not a single thing. So just forgive me now. Please, forgive me. Please send me back home. If God wanted to punish me, then I understand. It was my fault.
Subaru said, overwhelmed, with his voice gradually growing hoarse and holding back all his bitterness. He asked for forgiveness as he rubbed his forehead on the ground of the corridor. He did not know who he should ask this of, so he prayed to God. Taking the name of all the gods that were to his knowledge, he prayed. He wished forgiveness for the punishment given to him, to his slothful self. Reflections and regrets. He had surely done both enough to change his life. So please forgive me. He no longer wished to have anyone else involved in the punishment resulting from Natsuki Subaru's foolishness. He did not want to be hurt himself. He did not want to hurt anyone else. Cowering, Subaru desperately and tearfully appealed to the silent Echidna and Beatrice. Beatrice's palm gently stroked Subaru's back, who was squatted down next to the two of them. That feeling of the palm of someone not of the same incorrigibleness as him, why did it still persist with him? Hearing the answer of that question was too hurtful for Subaru.
I do not believe you.
Echidna? Beatrice called out to Echidna, who had sighed out her conclusion. At her voice, Echidna loosely shook her head.
Even if you cradle your head and sob, none of my doubt will be erased. My answer shall remain the same. I have the responsibility of borrowing Anna's body. For her safe return, no matter who curses me, who hates me, I will bear it. However, I do not want to do anything that leaves me incapable of facing Anna upon her return.
Saying that, Echidna gradually lowered her fingers towards Subaru's forehead. Seeing the fingers lose the pressure they had ever since coming to this isle, it became obvious that the issue of those fingers holding Subaru's life had been solved. But that had nothing to do with the salvation Subaru wished for.
Beatrice, you are free to go with him. I plan to go where Julius is. After reuniting with him, if no surprises arise, we will meet again above.
Understood, I suppose. Hey, Subaru, stand now, in fact. If you can't stand, then Betty's ready to even carry you, I suppose. Echidna turned her back and recognized that Beatrice respected her beliefs. At that time, as Beatrice tried to lend her small shoulder to him, Subaru stared at Echidna's back, who was trying to keep distance from his affairs. I am leaving Echidna, Anastasia-sama, in your hands.
By this, what do you think you are doing?
Echidna turned her head around and glared intensely at the hand which grabbed the sleeve of her left hand. Echidna had directed her question to Subaru, whose face was all messy with tears and a runny nose, his cheeks stiffening at her inquiry. He was unable to answer what he was doing right away. Subaru could not stand the look in Echidna's accusations. Even so, having heard Subaru's unsightly plea, it had been Echidna's judgment to not lay her hands on him. As she realized that, Subaru's fingers continued to damage her judgment.
I thought I was handing you over. Even so, how has it come down to this?
Julius asked me to.
He did? Do not jest. He could make this decision, but...
At that moment, Echidna, who was the reason behind Subaru's tears, reconsidered what she was going to say, letting out a "before that."
Did you meet him before coming here? He should have headed over to take a look at the situation on the 5th floor. And if he met with you... No, rather than that, what did he ask you for? Right now, he is...
Subaru experienced an overwhelming pressure due to her threatening attitude, hearing those rapid-fire questions. The cracks in his heart had yet to heal in the first place. Just why did his body act for a world out of his control, where he could not do anything? Why, until recalling Julius's scream, which could hardly be called a promise?
Yeah, we are making no progress. Anyway, where did you last meet Julius? Tell me.
Echidna, driven with impatience, picked words to continue the conversation. Looking at her efforts, Subaru gulped. It was not because he was hesitating to tell her. A situation even more urgent than this unavoidable one with Echidna had come up. Behind Echidna, who was staring at Subaru, a dot of red light floated across the aisle. Subaru was distracted by it, wondering what it was. A dot of red light, floating in the dark and moving slowly, directly faced Subaru's black eyes. Subaru understood that this was a situation of being eye to eye with someone or something, thanks to his mere intuition. At the same time, the eyes of the one who had locked with his own, its figure was faintly visible through the dark. A black body that blended in the dark, with a glowing dot of light, and a pair of strangely developed sharp pincers, and above all, a trembling sharp tail stinger. An unbelievably huge scorpion, with its tailpiece pointing towards them. Subaru! At that moment, it swung its tail. Beatrice, who was standing next to him, called out. Light swept through the aisle. The shockwaves emitted violently, shattering the stones, which composed the 4th floor. And that's the end of the chapter!
Yay!
Chapter 52!
Good work, everybody.
Ole shimole.
Depressing.
Very. So sorry for that message partway through, Chase. You literally yelled so loud, it maxed out the very lowest gain I could give you.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay. The kids didn't even notice.
I was so tempted to just like put a comment under it saying, "Nah, he's goated," but
So based. I'm so sorry if that
Jeez.
hurt anyone's ears.
No, it was sending chills down my spine, dude. I was legitimately getting chills.
That was like pretty harsh.
Man, then he just gave up.
Yep.
He's going through all the arcs in one fucking
Yep.
like less than an arc.
Yep, going through
This
it
is an
all.
arc 3.
This was arc 3.
Yeah, he's going the fuck through it.
Mhm.
Having a bit of a breakdown.
Breakdown.
Give up. I mean, he can't even give up.
No.
It's impossible. Even if he gives up and then dies, and he just comes back in this exact same place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no end to it.
Nope.
At least in Arc 3, he could run away, but
Not here.
Nope, he doesn't
Nadia,
get
he's
the
kinda
option. He
stuck.
can't. If he leaves,
Everything else
everyone
before
dies,
was like-
including him.
Yeah, everything else before was like Elden Ring, where if you're having a hard time, you just go somewhere else. This is like all the previous. Dark Souls.
You locked in the linear experience.
You're stuck. You just gotta bang your head against the wall till something changes.
He was thrown in the end game area without the tutorial. That's
Yeah.
So level 1.
He's level 1 guy, but just Natsuki Subaru here in Arc 6 territory, in endgame territory, and yet he's fighting for his goddamn life.
Yep.
This
At
has
least
to
he's
be,
going through it.
this has to be one of my favorite like Subaru breakdown moments in the story. Personally, I feel like it really hits like all of the tension and the genuine, like, as it describes in the narration, the snapping of his mind as he's like Arc 1 Subaru has sped run all of the pain of previous Subaru basically, but in such a short amount of time that he's just genuinely going crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, it's the breaking point.
Yeah, like all of his anger, his sadness, his pain, his desire to be punished, and like questioning why am I being punished, all is there. He's just asking why he has to be here when all he wants to be is home where his parents can take care of him.
Valid.
And
Cry.
when it looks like for a fraction it's getting better for him, where he's like, holy shit, I've been entrusted by someone, what the hell is going on?
But no
Like, I didn't murder him. He immediately turns around and gets slapped in the face with just, I don't trust you.
Yeah.
I don't trust.
In no uncertain terms do I trust you at all.
I trust you about as far as I can throw you, and have you seen this body?
I can't throw anything. Oof.
I just feel bad for Subaru.
Poor
There's
guy.
not much he can do. I mean, like, what here has been in his control so far?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Silence.
Nothing. Just silence. He can't do anything. He wakes up, gets put through the ringer, and then just like gets knocked out for a certain period of time, and wakes up and shit just happens around him.
It's the unfortunate truth with him having amnesia, but he has to go through these things because he has no prior knowledge. Like, there's no way he can on the fly adapt to any of these scenarios. He needs
to
to
rebuild all
go
the
through the
relationships.
pain and the tutorial before he can even figure out a solution.
Yeah.
Tutorial my ass, bro. Tutorial my ass. He's grinding on the final boss.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Final boss grind.
This is like picking up a game that your older sibling has and opening
Yeah,
up their
yeah.
save and being like, I wonder what this is about. Oh shit!
This is handing the control to the little brother.
Yeah.
The
But it's
wonderful
actually
one.
plugged
kicks
in,
in.
and it's like, oh no!
By the way, thank you, Taildy, for donating earlier.
You're welcome.
goat.
Just because I mathed through the math. If the number that we have at the top is accurate, it's like I need to make it even. It's
And thank
okay.
you
This
as
is
well,
why I never
Chill.
go up to the top to see it. It's like, please.
Rip. And thank you, Chilled, as well. Appreciate
Yes.
everybody. Thank you all. Whoop.
It's the amount of mic peeking that went on in that chapter.
Yeah.
That was
Whew. Yeah.
That was funny. I
Pretty much
couldn't tell-
everybody except me. I
yeah.
Yeah.
You're the only one that was spared.
Yay!
Yippee!
The previous chapter, the random shout that came through on
The
accident.
Shala, that was so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shala!
Great!
Shala!
I don't think I said Shala. I was just like trying to test my mic and be like, please don't peek, and then my finger slipped and I accidentally hit the mic button.
Oh
Yeah, it's Shala. Oh,
Glorious.
It was
no!
from
Everyone
far
must
away.
know what you do. There are no secrets here, sir.
I mean, do I regret it? Nah.
No.
That was funny.
There's never any
That
regrets in
was
this
funny.
No regrets. That was
Brought me
great.
back into the chapter. It was great.
Snap back to reality.
It's Reed reminding the listener that he's still there.
Yep.
Shala.
Shala.
He's like running through. You hear him. That's him coming down from the level above. He's like, Shala!
Running
Where
with
you
the
at, you prick?
Running down the steps. Where the fuck
Come
you at? Hey!
I'm out.
Ah!
Oh my god, don't kill your voice.
It's already been killed.
Oh god.
There's no recovering this.
Oh my
Death
God.
by
It's
Reed.
just preparation for Arc 7.
Yeah. Oh my god.
My lord. Those
Oh.
voices.
Those
We
were-
got
Those
it.
voices are gonna
Preparation
be
for callback.
crazy.
Ooh,
Okay.
Arc
Connor
7, callback.
says goodbye. I hear myself.
Oh, hold on. Wolf is.
You
Oh,
are
oh,
echoing at the current moment. You sound like you are in a tunnel.
How'd you
It sounds
unmute?
like
You
there
sound
are
like-
two of you.
Yeah, there are two of you.
There
It
you
sounds like
go.
you are in
I'm
the
so
washing machine.
sorry.
There you
I
go.
don't even know how
It's
that
okay.
happened.
Everyone's just dicking up today. It's all
I
right.
pressed no button.
Connor says hi bye.
we
He had
all
a
make
cat
mistakes.
issue to deal with.
Oh yeah.
Cat issue.
Issues.
Cat.
Hey, cat issues are important.
They are.
Mm-hmm.
They
fight.
are.
Fight. I think with that
Oh,
being
they were
said,
fighting.
we just rushed. We crammed through 3 chapters in 2 hours, just a little over 2 hours. I think it's a good time to call
Oh
it.
my
Yeah.
boy.
I
Yeah.
need to
Yeah.
talk.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you everyone for being
Yeah.
here today. As a reminder, we will not be back Saturday, so enjoy your 4th of July if you celebrate. If you're non-American like us, we'll see you around. Podcast comes out for everybody on Friday.
Tee-hee.
And then we'll see you guys next Wednesday for the ending of Phase 3 of Arc 6.
Bye-bye,
Yes.
everyone.
Goodbye!